Put in another long day today working on this pond system on the far west end of the property, and thought I would pause here and share some notes with folks as the sun goes down on how things are evolving in this project. It's definitely moving forward. Kind of ridiculous how much more there is to do, but you're starting to get a sense of the actual depth evolving here. So let me explain where we're at. If this is completely new to you, check out the first video where I describe this concept in more detail. I'm going to make a playlist so we can track how this evolves over time. And from that last video, you can definitely see, especially on this end, which is the east side, starting to get a sense of the steps and the terracing, the layers. It's going to be a lot of detailed shovel work in there. I'm going to wait for a good rain when it's softer, and starting to get a little closer to the actual depth that we might want to have for this in this one spot. It seemed prudent to, rather than focusing on getting equal depth around the entire space all the time, to focus on one area. So if we got a flash rain out of nowhere, it would have somewhere to go and sit. We can pull that with a pump, clean it out, and use it for the gardens, and then continue on. Little upgrade to the process, minor, but I come out here with my truck a lot of the times when I'm working, and so what I do is make sure the truck is filled with sifted compost from the chicken yard, from our chicken composting operation. And what I've been doing is, as I go through each layer, the areas that I plan on extracting for topsoil and for bed making, they get some sifted compost first, and then the BCS runs through that, churns it all up and unifies it, and then the soil that's leaving has both compost and some decent topsoil. So it should be able to grow some crops beautifully right out of the gate. You can see now that it's been about 12 days or so since the first work began. Some of the areas that got shaped up and cover cropped right at the beginning are starting to green up in a nice way. So this whole berm here is purple top turnips all through, and we'll continue adding soil in that area. There'll be more shrubs and trees in there. I'm trying to think through what the long-term design will be, but I think that can happen later on. This bed got set to mainly buckwheat and a little bit of Sudan grass, and that's just so luscious and green. We could really use some rain, but I feel like the benefit of it being so dry is it's less moisture to move in the soil. So I've been trying to get as much done with this as possible, and fingers crossed we get a little rain tonight and some tomorrow. As we go deeper and deeper into the soil, it definitely gets a lot more dense, more clayey, and lots more rocks. And so that material is less appropriate to be topping hugel mounds and making permanent raised beds all throughout the landscape, and a little bit more useful for impoundments and for structure. So still got a ways to go to refine it, but most of the raw material for a 3 to 4 foot tall platform made of earth for a large water cistern is now in position. So a whole lot more shovel work, and then I'm going to get a tamping or like a ram pad and basically get this nice and smooth. But you can see that from grade it goes up a few feet. You can probably go a little further, and onto this we'll put a 600-gallon tank that can then be filled with a solar panel from the pond right over there, only about 20-30 yards away, and then be able to use gravity to send it to the gardens and remain in the shade. I'm also taking some of this deeper subsoil and using it to start rough sketching what a dike will be in this lull. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'll use it. Berm, let's say. I've observed for sure that in the past, this area, which was way not a pond yet, this would be the channel where excess water would flow out. It would go into another pond over there. And so what I want to do is get this all bermed up with mainly subsoil and then topsoil on top, so we can extend these garden beds out quite a bit and just have a simple walking path through here. But what that will do is, when the water peaks, it'll have this impediment, so it can't flow through this path of least resistance. It should be able to hold a tremendous amount more water and be able to really irrigate these beds thoroughly. And from down here in the hole, you can kind of see what I'm describing, that there's a little lull where water can sneak through. If all of this was soil 6 inches higher, maybe even a foot higher, all through here, then the water level would be high enough to wick into these hugel mounds when it's at a peak moment, and the overflow can be designed to go out this way. It would let us hold a huge amount more water without a lot more depth of digging. I think this area in here could probably take on about 80 to 100 more wheelbarrow loads. It really disappears into the landscape when you spread it out and pack it with your feet. So all this will be covered with subsoil. Once that form is set, I'll then cover it in topsoil, get it seeded to a cover crop. We'll see more of this evolving in future videos. But yeah, you can start to sense the actual scale of this a little bit better. There's a wheelbarrow on the far side. The other day we had a great session where Sasha and our friend Margaret, hey Margaret, thank you so much. We worked as 3 people where the 2 of them would be filling one wheelbarrow while I took another wheelbarrow off to dump somewhere. And then the timing worked out that as long as I wasn't going very far, each wheelbarrow would be full, and I was just basically running back and forth while they scooped up the soil. Got the last of this firewood out of this old shed that I built about 9 years ago that was meant to serve the heating needs of this structure, which is not in use. So it seemed better to take this firewood to our home where Sasha and I live. And in the next video, you'll see this will be taken down. They'll be put to other purposes or chopped up for firewood. But that's going to help really clear up the bounding space right around this pond. All of this area will become a permanent raised bed and probably will be in some sort of fruiting shrubs and vines next year. A rough calculation had this project at, I think I'm crazy to say this, but I think it was 10,000 wheelbarrow loads of soil would displace enough soil to hold around 300,000 gallons of water, which is, I think, the theoretical high end of what this area can do. We'll just keep going pass by pass, chip away at these islands, wait till the fall for the miscanthus and the persimmon to move, and just keep going lower and lower, watching how it forms and responds to rains, and see if we can't get it maybe 5 or 6 feet deep in the very, very center, or a couple little pockets here or there, and then have some shallows for rice production and some other propagation work on some of these edges. This poor old BCS has been really put through the paces. I need to do an oil change on this sooner rather than later. I think it started to burn a little oil just from the intense work that we were asking of it. And I noticed one of these plowshares on the rotary plow is starting to show some fissure marks. So the amount of work that's happening here is so intense. I think I need to, because this is a much older tool, I think I need to order some new plowshares for this, get that freshened up, get some fresh oil for this old machine so that it can live through this intense work. So there's update number 2, or first update, I guess, on this. Thought I'd capture it now because it's moving along at a nice clip. Next time we show this video, there should be a whole lot more material removed from this general area. And what I've started working on with the shovel work of sketching these access arches, these levels, these steps, I'd like to see that be way more evolved next time. Theoretically, as we go deeper and the edges are defined, there should be less and less total volume that has to come out. We're doing the largest surface area now, and it'll keep going inward. So it's going to get easier, right? Thanks for watching. Let me know if you've got any suggestions of things that you're seeing that I'm doing that seem blatantly wrong or weird. Maybe you've got some questions about what we're trying to do. And let's just share notes and learn from this process. Maybe others are getting excited to try to dig a relatively ridiculous scale pond where they live with some basic tools too. Get your friends out. I need to make sure I don't do too many more of these days on my own. It's so much more fun when we've got other folks and it's way more productive. Thank you for watching. Take care.